What I can't stop thinking about is the kind of advancements in medical technology that we're going to see, and the fact that we might be the generation to live 125-year lifespans. That's what I can't stop
It's only going to keep getting longer and longer, right? Just like anything else in technology, it operates at an exponential pace because each improvement helps facilitate the next one at an even faster rate than the last. So
right, they compound.
Yeah. So when you see a 20-year, say like within the next 10 years we see a 5-year increase. Then in the next 10 years after that we'll see a 10-year increase. And then the next 10 years after that we'll see a 15-year increase. And in 30 years you get a 40-year increase in life expectancy because it's non-linear, right? It's not like 5, 5, 5 where you're at 15. Now you're at like 30, 40 years within the same amount of time because we just keep getting more efficient with the process's development.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to like retirement age, which is, still 4 decades from now, about that, I mean, that's a lot of time for a lot of people to have a whole bunch of breakthroughs.
We could be the generation that doesn't really have to suffer old age. Not that we're going to live forever, but that it'll be a lot easier to live more comfortably for longer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, we won't be 90 years old and basically crippled.
Exactly. We'll be 90 years old, jerking off still, doing a jig.
Dude, we'll be like fucking swingers.
I mean, we're gonna put Viagra out of business. Let me tell you, won't need them.
It's gonna be all.
We won't need it anymore.
The brain modifications, I think, because that's what really gets old people, is like the fact that you could be like 70, but then like you get Alzheimer's or dementia or like something that kind of destroys your brain. If you have like something that's an electronic device or some way of preventing that or even enhancing that in older people, so rather than having a cognitive decline, you can stay stable or even be above stable.
Well, here's the interesting thing.
That's the big exciting thing for me.
To your point, in terms of, say, neural interfaces with the brain, like Neuralink, those in the early stages are going to be used mostly for helping disabled people, right? Like, that's going to be their clinical proof case. But as medicine evolves and, using that same kind of system maybe to help out mentally impaired elderly, as medicine evolves, it'll change from creating things to help reverse issues or to help ease issues, and it'll become, we never developed those issues in the first place.
Preventative measures rather than
that shit's gonna be done at the genetic level for sure.
Well, we have CRISPR, but it would be a matter of, can you do it to people who are already alive, or are we just gonna start, I don't want to say superhumans, but like a next step of human modified evolution using gene editing, or the word selective breeding always gets bad rap, so you don't want to use that. But like,
what it is, though.
I mean,
you're editing,
it's almost
genomes,
selective. It's not that you're preventing something else from happening or like killing off the people who aren't.
Selectively picking the things you don't want.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said
it's
a touchy term for some people.
Selective breeding is like you take attribute A of one person and attribute B of another, and you co-mate them to create something that contains both. But with genetic modification,
I see what you're saying.
With genetic modification, it doesn't matter what A or B is, but you can modify C.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is it needs a new term, but for sure that's an exciting front. And then if you could apply that to the living people already, that would be best for us. But I guess you can just hope for better for the next generation.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I think we'd probably be more towards the edge of, like technological assistance in old age. I don't know if we'll be on the edge of, we'll never develop those issues anyways. I mean, but what, like, the three of us are healthy people, generally.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we'll end up having to deal with a lot of those things in the first place. But I would say
Also true.
for people who have chronic conditions, like, you just won't see those anymore eventually.
Yeah, right. I think the most benefit that will come to people like us would be end of life
Right.
kind of stuff. It just extends that for the most part.
You can always hope for some performance boosts. I mean, Cyberpunk
Well,
gets me thinking
that is the
about
performance boost. That is the performance boost. It's
End of
not
life's
having
performance boost.
Yeah, it's not being decrepit.
That's
is
not
the
much of a
boost.
performance boost. That's just...
Well, I mean, if you're 90 and you can be like you were 60, I mean, it's like pretty good.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, in our current society, like 60 is the golden age, because that's around when you stop working and start having free time while still having good function of your body.
Yeah, imagine when middle
It's a
age.
short window.
Imagine when middle age becomes 60, 70.
It'll be awesome.
It's nuts.
That's a crazy thought.
But what does that do for the working span of a person's life, right? You
gotta hope
still go to school
that-
till you're like early 20s. But now are you going to spend that much more time working? You know, because you have to...
I think it gives you the freedom. You can still retire, you know, at whatever age you
No,
decide to
but
retire.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case, right? Because people retire at 65 expecting to live maybe another 20 years, right? So they only have to make enough money in the period of their life when they're working to last them 20 years before they die.
But that's why people call it like the rat race, right? You're trying to like get to that point of, or at least that's why I think people call it that. But you're trying to get to that point of like, I have enough for the rest of my life. But if you're, say, living to like, let's say 140, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start working at like a real job after education at like 25, and then you can work up until you're 60, and that usually affords people like what, 20, 30 years of wealth for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can just like work
Very
part-time or operate in a creative, or like we can kind
Engage
of
in hobbies.
utilize
Right.
that older
Yeah,
generation
that's kind of what I was thinking.
as like
'cause if you're-
teachers or mentors for kids. So like you collectively can advance society for the better.
You take a
by
more
using
social
knowledgeable people
position
in
in
knowledgeable
society.
social roles. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
And
a whole
then-
new phase of your life, really.
Yeah.
Because like
The
at that
other
point,
thing
you have
is-
so much wisdom, but you're still ready to, you know, you're still able to go out in the world and get
Yeah.
even more wisdom and then impart that upon others. So I mean,
We're also going to have like better AI and automation. So a lot of jobs that are like really grueling or like really bodily intensive and
that
not
can
like
be
creative
automated will be
intensive
automated.
are going to end up going away. People are saying like, oh, it means less jobs for everybody, but it means more people in, you know, thinking roles, more people in roles that require humans.
Well, yeah, the society as a
And our
whole will
creative
eventually evolve to
brain.
become more intellectually based in day-to-day life, right? Rather than physical labor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind
It's
of
almost one of the few things still connecting us to like, I don't want to say animalistic, but like survival roots is the fact that like we do rely on people basically being workhorses in a lot of jobs that like even now we could, if we put a lot of effort into it and didn't fear automation, we could totally automate and remove, you know.
Yeah, there's always the humanitarian aspect of automation, but sometimes for certain tasks, the cost of developing the automated routine for that job is still too costly to justify
I still want
trying
to
to
try to
replace the
leave
job.
like cost out of it, and like in a theoretical, you say you just keep people in jobs where like a human is needed for like a creative aspect, right? Or for like some, it's hard to define, but something like special, something that doesn't necessarily just isn't
something
just
that
a
you
need.
can't automate. Essentially, it's just
Like
something that
wants.
isn't routine.
Well, I'm thinking you could automate like all human needs basically, and leave it to humans to fulfill human wants, which would be, I think, a massive evolutionary step. But
I
maybe
guess,
stupid
yeah,
in saying
but that
so.
opens a whole other can of worms. Where if nothing needs to be done, what is motivating people to do anything? Right?
Well, it would be the motivation to create at that point.
Yeah, it's basically
Because
just
Yeah,
that
that's
everyone
what humans
engages with
have.
their hobbies,
Mhm.
basically. It's like you take
'Cause,
all
like-
those things that are normally like a pleasure that you don't get to engage with as regularly, and now that becomes your mainstay.
Yeah. Like, that's the whole reason humans stopped, like, living in caves and stuff. Because they were surviving, right? They could have stayed that way and just kept surviving in caves. But you search out, I guess you seek luxury. It's a pretty human trait. And when you seek luxury, you get things like agriculture. So you don't have to go out hunting as much. Or you seek, you start herding and keeping animals, livestock, so you don't have to go out and find them as much. A luxury, because they could go out and find them. Back then it was plentiful, but it saved them more energy and time to do that, and then they could focus on more luxury.
I get what you're saying.
So it's always
when
been.
You're saying, I get what you're saying when you say luxury, but it's fine. Yeah, it's not. It's fine. That's not how they thought about it, but yeah, right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Effectively,
Quality
it is
of
luxury.
life stuff is what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
and as quality of life goes up, we're probably going to get more people. More people means something.
Well, hopefully we don't add too many more people to this planet yet, because
This pandemic, aside from removing people, I bet has definitely quelled the birth rate for a while.
yeah, I think I actually
Might be
read.
able to see
I
a little
definitely
dip.
read or heard something alluding to, the millennial generation probably is gonna have some kind of gap, for sure, in birth rate.
Good for the earth.
Well, I mean
it's-
it is, but like it kind of doesn't matter if it's not in an area that isn't relevant for it. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess.
If-
Humans are just so exponential, or have the capability to be so exponential. Like, one person could have 11 kids, and those 11 kids could each have, like, 2 kids, and then it's like, holy fuck, one person
Well,
equals
see, the
22
interesting is as third world countries begin to modernize, the birth rates will naturally decrease. Right?
China's seeing
Child
that right
mortality, child mortality decreases, access to medicine increases, birth rates will go down.
yeah, that's
China
true.
saw that.
That's very true.
But they also predict the population to continue to increase for the next century. So I'm not really sure how birth rates are expected to go down as the, Africa and
Well,
such
it could be a
modernize.
normalization kind of thing, right? Like now the birth rates start to come up in some places and start to go down in some others, right? So like it seems a little unlikely. I imagine maybe population can increase, but nowhere near the rate it has been or has been in the past. Because I do agree, it would seem a little unlikely that places that are already pretty well developed, like the US or Europe or, a lot of Asia, would all of a sudden start increasing in birth rate again. But I think in a lot of places it'll come down, and then maybe some of those other places it'll start to just kind of flatten out at a very minimal increase.
Mm-hmm. That, I think that's always going to be a plus. Not that less people is a plus, but less people on Earth now until we get our shit together. Once we're at that stage where people are living long, hopefully we're at the point where we've been taking care of climate change and the Earth. Even if that means, like, now we modify our own climate manually. Like, rather than just destroying it, like, we modify it for good, modify it for, like, what suits us best. But, then we're interplanetary, baby.